The bus should have been empty. Ethan Mercer was certain of it. It was 2:17 a.m. when he stepped aboard the number 9 service at the edge of Ashcombe, a quiet town that disappeared into darkness after 10 each night. Rain rattled against the windows, the streets glistened beneath amber lamps, and the driver barely acknowledged him as he tapped his card. Only 4 passengers sat scattered throughout the bus. An elderly woman knitting, a young man asleep against the window, a nurse still wearing blue scrubs, and a little girl in a yellow raincoat. Nothing unusual, at first. Ethan took a seat halfway down and leaned his head against the cool glass. 12 hours repairing electrical faults at the hospital had left him exhausted. His apartment and his bed were only 15 minutes away. The bus pulled away. The streets rolled by. 1 stop, 2, 3. Nobody boarded. Nobody got off. The little girl never moved. She simply stared through the rain-streaked window with an expression far older than her years. Ethan looked away, then looked back. She was staring directly at him. Not smiling, not frightened, simply waiting. He offered an awkward nod. She slowly raised one finger and pointed toward the front windscreen. Curious, Ethan followed her gaze. The road ahead vanished into thick, white fog. He frowned. That wasn't possible. There hadn't been fog 30 seconds earlier. The driver slowed. The bus rolled silently into the whiteness. The streetlights disappeared. So did the houses. The GPS display above the driver blinked once, then went black. The interior lights dimmed. Every phone screen on the bus went dark simultaneously. An uncomfortable silence settled over the passengers. The knitting stopped. The sleeping man opened his eyes. The nurse sat upright. Nobody spoke. The bus continued forward. Rain had stopped. Now there was only silence. Perfect silence. The kind that presses against your ears until you realize how much noise the world usually contains. Ethan stood. "Driver?" No response. He walked forward. The driver remained perfectly still, hands on the wheel, eyes fixed ahead. Too still. Excuse me?" Nothing. Ethan touched his shoulder. The driver slowly turned. His eyes were completely white. No pupils, no iris, only pale, empty eyes. Ethan stumbled backwards. The bus lurched violently. Every light went out. When they returned a second later, the elderly woman had disappeared. Her knitting remained on the seat, still moving slightly as though someone had only just stood up. The remaining passengers stared at the empty place. No one screamed. Fear had become too large for sound. The little girl quietly whispered, "He's early." Ethan turned. "What did you say?" She looked at him with extraordinary calm. "He wasn't supposed to find us yet." The bus slowed again. Outside the windows stood an enormous forest Ethan had never seen before. Towering black trees stretched endlessly beneath a silver moon that hadn't existed moments earlier. The road ended at a weathered bridge. The driver did not slow. He aimed directly toward it. The nurse finally found her voice. "Stop the bus!" No answer. The young man rushed forward, grabbing the steering wheel. His hands passed straight through it, as though it were smoke. The bus rolled onward. The bridge creaked. Halfway across, Ethan noticed figures standing below. Hundreds of them. Silent. Watching. They lined the riverbank without moving. Every one of them looking up at the bus. Waiting. The little girl stood. There the passengers who stayed. What does that mean? They were too frightened to choose. Choose what? She looked sadly at him. To keep going. The bridge groaned. Cracks spread across the road. The bus continued. Ethan's pulse hammered. What is this place? The girl answered so quietly he almost missed it. It's where fear drives when nobody is holding the wheel. The bridge collapsed behind them. There was no turning back. The forest swallowed the road. Ahead, something enormous moved between the trees. Not walking, watching. Branches bent around it. Moonlight seemed to avoid it. It had no clear shape, only the impossible impression of something too large to understand. Where it looked, the air darkened. The nurse began crying. The young man buried his face in his hands. The creature drew closer. The little girl walked toward Ethan. "I need your help. You're just a child." "No." She smiled sadly. "I only look like one." She reached into her raincoat pocket and handed him a tarnished brass bus ticket. Across the front were the words, "Final transfer. Everyone gets one." "I don't understand." "You don't have to. You only have to decide." The creature stepped onto the road. The bus stopped. Its engine died. Silence returned. The white-eyed driver stood, then slowly dissolved into drifting ash. The doors folded open. Cold night air filled the bus. The creature waited outside, patient, certain. The little girl looked at Ethan. "If you stay where you are, it wins. If I get off, it wins. Then what am I supposed to do?" She smiled. "Drive." "I can't." "You can." Ethan looked toward the empty driver's seat. His entire life had been spent avoiding difficult choices, avoiding confrontation, avoiding risk, always taking the safest road, always waiting for someone else to solve the problem. The creature took another step. The bus shook. The remaining passengers looked at him. Not pleading, trusting, for reasons he could not explain. Ethan walked to the driver's seat, sat down, placed both hands on the wheel. It felt solid, warm. The engine roared to life. The creature hesitated. Headlights blazed brighter than daylight. The forest trembled. The little girl laughed. "That's better." Ethan pressed the accelerator. The bus surged forward, not toward the creature, through it. For a heartbeat, the darkness surrounded them. Thousands of whispers filled the air. Regrets, failures, every fear Ethan had ever carried. Every moment he had believed he wasn't enough. He gripped the wheel tighter. "I'm driving." The whispers faded. The darkness fractured. The headlights burst through into pouring rain. The familiar streets of Ashcombe reappeared. Traffic lights, shop fronts, street signs. The bus rolled gently to the curb, engine humming quietly. The clock above the windscreen read 2:18 a.m. Only 1 minute had passed. Ethan looked behind him. Every seat was empty, except one. Resting where the little girl had sat was the small brass ticket. He picked it up. On the reverse, new words had appeared. "When someone is lost, you'll know the way." The next morning, the transit company insisted there had never been a number 9 service after midnight. The driver in Ethan's description had retired 9 years earlier, and no child matching the girl's description had ever been reported missing. Sometimes on rainy nights, Ethan still waits at that lonely bus stop, not because he wants answers, but because he has learned that somewhere, beyond ordinary roads and ordinary fears, there are journeys that depend on one person being willing to take the wheel when everyone else believes the road has ended.